Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, Cooking for the Family. I'm Dyvonne and today I'm going to share with you how to make this delicious mixed berry galette with a wonderful buttery flaky crust. You ready? Let's get started. So these are the ingredients that we're going to be needing for our all butter crust as well as our delicious mixed berries. We're going to be using blackberries, blueberries, and strawberries as well. Everything is from scratch and I'm going to show you how to do it. So first we're going to start off with our crust, okay? And so from here on out, I'm just going to refer to it as our rustic pie because I like to refer to these as rustic pies. And so we're going to be using 2.5 cups of regular all-purpose flour. And I like to use unbleached flour when I'm making my baked goods. And so far we have our 2 cups and we're going to add another half a cup. Also, when you're making your crust, I don't typically sift my flour when I'm making my pie crust, but I do like to level it off and then tap it a little bit with my butter knife right there, just to make sure I don't have any pockets of air in my scooper when I scooped up my measuring cup, okay? And then next we're going to add in a little bit of sugar. We're putting in 1 tablespoon of regular granulated sugar to our crust, and we're also going to put in 1 teaspoon of regular table salt. Now, once we do this, all we're going to do is just give it a nice stir, and I just use my fork. I'm going to give it a nice stir because you want to make sure all your ingredients are nice and well blended. And we're going to be using 1 cup of unsalted butter. And our unsalted butter is nice and cold. It wasn't in the freezer, and typically though when I make my biscuit dough, I like to have nice frozen butter. But for my pie crust, some nice cold refrigerated butter is just fine. And then I'm using my bench scraper and I'm just kind of breaking down those big pieces, and we're going to break them down to about the size of, say, like a dime or so. And then we're going to add those to our flour mixture. If you are new to my channel, welcome. And if you're a returner, welcome back. And I truly appreciate all your likes, your shares, your subscribes, and your good vibe comments. I am just truly appreciative of all the wonderful subscribers that have found my channel. And if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, I invite you to hit that subscribe button. Now, once we put our butter inside our flour mixture, what we want to do is we want to integrate that flour and butter together. And you see what I'm doing with my hands? I'm using my thumb just like that, and I'm pressing and flattening out that butter because we are going to be breaking down those dime-sized pieces that we had earlier. We're breaking those down into pea size. So then you start off with just one hand like I was doing. I put both my hands in the bowl and I'm pressing and I'm blending and I'm mixing, and I'm just letting the flour kind of like fall out of my fingers back into the bowl. Press and get those big pieces. You're going to break them down and you're going to constantly continue to do that. You're going to work quickly because we don't want our butter to get too warm or too soft. So we want to keep it nice and cold just like it is. Now, when you have integrated the flour and the butter, you see when I make a fist and how it holds together, it sticks together like that? That's how you know that you've really done a really good job of mixing together that butter and that flour mixture. Now we're going to be using some nice ice cold water, and we're going to use anywhere from about 4 to 6 tablespoons. I've used as little as 4 tablespoons, and sometimes I've used as much as 6 tablespoons of the ice cold water. You don't want to go past 6 tablespoons. And with this ratio, 4, 5, or 6 tablespoons right up in there should do you. You do not want to have super sticky pie crust. Super sticky dough works great for biscuits, but not for pie crust. Your pie crust should not be really sticky when it comes time for you to roll it out. So when you add your water to your bowl, your cold water like I did, I'm pressing. You just want to press because you really want to press and gather your flour and the butter. You want to gather and push it into the bowl because you're really trying to make a nice uniform ball. As you continue to do that, the dry flour is going to start integrating into the nice wet dough, okay? And it's not going to be super wet, but it is going to be very moist, and you're going to gather all of the rest of the dry flour is going to gather into the bowl. Once we get to this point, we're going to turn our dough out onto our rolling mat or whatever surface that you're using to roll out your dough. And then once we turn it out, what you want to do is you want to just continue to kind of just gather all your dough together. And so we're just going to continue to press and gather and pull it all together. It should feel similar to say like Play-Doh in a sense, but you want to just kind of push it, gather it, make sure you have no more of the flour showing. It should just be all one uniform dough, just like that. And your dough should still be cool to the touch. And remember, we're not kneading the dough, but you're really just pressing it all together. Now, once we have our dough all gathered together, I'm going to use my bench scraper, and we're just going to go on and we're going to evenly divide as best as we can. You want to divide your dough in half, and then each half you want to take and just kind of press, and we're going to make a nice round disc just like I'm doing. Now when you are making and forming this round disc, and it's going to be about 1 inch to about 1.5 inches thickness, okay? And so when you're doing this, as you're rotating it around, any creases that you have around the sides of your dough, around the sides of the disc, you want to pinch those together and just make those nice and sealed, because that's going to be important when it comes time for us to roll out our pie crust. And again, I do it with the second half as well. I just kind of press down and really quickly go all around. Then you can either use plastic wrap. I like to use this freezer bag, and I'll just put both pieces in there. Now you can refrigerate your dough for 1 hour. We want to have nice chilled dough when we start to roll out our pie crust. And so you can either put it in the refrigerator for 1 hour, or you can put it in the freezer for about 15 to 20 minutes. And today we're going to do the freezer method. I'm going to put our pie dough in the freezer for about 15 to 20 minutes. Now, while our pie dough is chilling, what we're going to do is we're going to gather our berries that we're going to be using in our bowl. Now, we're going to be using a total of 3 cups. We're going to be using the blackberries, the blueberries, as well as we're going to be using some strawberries. Now, the strawberries, though, we're going to be cutting those. We're going to hold those, and we're going to cut those in half as well. And another berry you can use if you like, raspberries are also another berry that works very good in this rustic mixed berry pie. So once we have 1 cup of the blackberries, we're going to add that 1 cup of the blueberries. And we're going to go on and hull our strawberries. And hulling is just that process that I'm doing right there of removing the green stem and that centerpiece that is right underneath the stem as well. Then you want to cut your strawberries in half. You can also cut your strawberries in fourths if you like. And I like to do a nice heaping cup of those strawberries. We're going to set our berries aside, and our crust should be ready in about 10 minutes. So our crust is nice and ready. It has come out of the freezer. We're going to start to roll it out. I'm going to take the other pie crust that we're not going to be working with just yet, and I'm going to actually put it back into the refrigerator. Okay, so we're going to put this in the refrigerator so it can stay nice and chilled. Now with our pie crust, we're just going to use a little bit of flour. About 1 tablespoon is going to be enough to roll out both pie discs. And you want to be mindful that you're not introducing too much flour into your pie crust as you're rolling out your disc. So just a little bit, just for the rolling pin and just for the mat underneath or whatever surface that you're rolling it out. Go back and forth like I'm doing. And any cracks or creases that you start to get around the edge as you're rolling out your pie crust, you want to go on and press and pinch those together, because the more you roll out your pie crust, the little cracks on the side, what will happen is those little cracks will become big cracks, and then sometimes your pie crust can fray. And so we don't want that. So just want to be mindful that as you're rolling out your pie dough, if you get any little cracks or crevices on the side, go on and just pinch those back together just like that. And you're going to roll out your dough till your dough is about 1/8 of an inch thickness. And that's going to be roughly, just think of like, say, if you took 2 quarters, if y'all took 2 quarters and you stacked them on top of each other, around about that thickness, give or take, but around about that thickness. You don't want it super thin, okay? You don't want it too thick. So about 2 quarters stacked up together is going to give you about what you're looking for. Now I take my rolling pin and I take the end, I just kind of roll it up just like that. Be really gentle, and I'm just kind of rolling up my pie crust because I'm going to transfer it on to my cookie sheet that I have with some parchment paper, because we're going to be making 2 rustic pies, and this recipe is going to give you 4 pieces out of each rustic pie, or even 5 pieces depending on how big or small you decide to cut your slices. So once we have the first dough on our cookie sheet and just kind of situated, because and then also you want to have it, I have it overlapped about a couple of inches. I've got it overlapped right there, just like that. I've got it overlapped because we're going to be folding it onto itself, okay? And we're going to roll out our second dough just like we did the first. When I start to roll out my second dough, what I do is I go on and I turn on my oven at this time. So I have my oven right now is preheating on 400 degrees because once we mix our berries, and because we haven't mixed our berries with anything in addition to it, but once we get our berry mixture together, we're going to move really quickly because it's important that you want to transfer those berries right away into your pie dough. Now we're going to go on and transfer our second pie dough onto our cookie sheet as well. When you initially put your second pie dough on your cookie sheet, your doughs are going to overlap, and also your second pie dough is also going to overlap that couple of inches on the right as well. And so just gently place them down, just like I'm doing there. And I know baking from scratch, it takes patience, it takes a little bit of know-how, and it takes a lot of love, but the result is so worth it. And so now we have our pie crust. We're just going to set that aside, and we're going to go on and do our berry mixture. And we're just going to use a little bit of sugar. We're going to use a couple of tablespoons of sugar, and that's really all you need. We just want to really bring out that natural juiciness and that natural sweetness of our berries. We're going to use a little bit of lemon juice. You can use as much as a tablespoon of lemon juice, and you want to use some fresh squeezed lemon juice. And I'm going to just be using a half of a tablespoon. That's because my blackberries, my blueberries were actually pretty sweet, but those strawberries need a little bit of help. And so now the cornstarch. Now the cornstarch, we're going to be using 1 tablespoon plus 1 teaspoon of the cornstarch. And the reason why we didn't put this mixture on when we were waiting for our pie crust to get ready from the freezer is because as soon as you put the sugar on, what's going to happen is it's going to start to really release some juices. You don't want your berries to get too juicy before they start to bake in the oven, because what's going to happen is you're going to also make that soggy bottom, that soggy crust bottom, and that can happen really easily. And so to avoid that, you don't want to put the sugar on your berries until the very last moment, okay? And so once we have the cornstarch, that was 1 tablespoon plus 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, you want to mix everything around. Now, it's really tempting to want to add additional berries and go like 4 cups or 5 cups of berries. I want to caution you against that, and the reason is because the more berries you have, the juicier your pie is going to be, but you're going to have that spillage. You're going to have a lot of spillage, and you're going to also end up with some very soggy pie crust. And so the berries we have, the 3 cups, is going to be plenty. But if you want to put a few of the red berries, either the strawberries or the raspberries, whichever one you're choosing to use, on top for decorative purposes, you can definitely do that if you like. Now what we do is we're just going to go on and just fold over, and we're going to make kind of like little pleats, and we're just going to fold over our pie crust right on top our pie dough, and just kind of pinch a little bit and just fold over. And you want to just gently lay your pie dough right on top of our berries, just like that. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is a rustic pie, and just I find that charm of the rustic pie is just that nice free form crust, that nice free-form dough that we do when you're making just like a nice fruit pie. And so once we have all of our berries just like that, you want to make sure that you get any of that sugar and cornstarch mixture that could be in the bowl. You want to make sure that you also get that and put that with the berries as well. Now remember, our oven is preheating on that 400 degrees. Once we put our pies in the oven, we're going to go on and lower it to 375 degrees. Now in the description box below, I will have a list of all the ingredients you need to make this delicious mixed berry rustic pie for your family. And with it being the beginning of spring and we have summer that's going to be quickly approaching, these nice delicious fruit pies make such a wonderful addition to our dinner table or to that gathering with family and friends. And so once we have all of our pie and we've just gone and we've pleated it over just like we've done there. Remember, we don't need to press it down, just go on and lay it on top of the fruit. We have 1 egg, and to that I added also a tablespoon of water, and that's going to be just our little egg wash that we're going to put all around the outside of our pie, just like that. And this is going to give us a nice sheen, a beautiful glossy sheen to the outside of our crust. crust. We're also going to be using some of this raw sugar right here, and we're just going to use about a tablespoon, and we're going to just sprinkle it all around the outside. It's going to create a nice little sugary crusty layer, and if you get a little bit of that raw sugar in the inside of the pie, don't worry, it's perfectly fine. And we're just going to put it all around. Now we're going to put our pie in the oven, and we're going to let it bake, and it's going to bake for about 30 to 40 minutes, but we're going to put it in at 400 and we're going to lower it to 375. So our pie has baked for 35 minutes in our oven, and this is what it's looking like. It smells so good in the kitchen, just that wonderful aroma of those beautiful berries. And now we're going to use, you can use some strawberry preserves or jam, and I'm using some jam. You can also use mixed berry preserves or jam, or you can use raspberry, depending on whichever one you like. And all I did was I just microwaved it for about 15 seconds and got it nice and just easy to spread. And this step is optional, but I really like brushing our berries with this preserves or with the jam. I'm actually using jam. I like to just brush the berries with them. It's a nice finishing touch, and it just gives the berries a nice glossy sheen. Well, now it is time for us to give our pie a try and see how we did with our beautiful rustic mixed berry pie. It is cutting so nicely, y'all. I've taken some ice cream out. You can definitely serve this with some vanilla ice cream or either some nice whipped cream. Either one of those works well. And this is our pie. Oh my goodness. It looks so good. The berries look so good. They've released some of their wonderful natural juices. We've got to go on and just top it with some vanilla ice cream, y'all. Just take it all the way. There we go. Wow, will you see that? Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see how our crust is looking. Our nice, beautiful, delicious, buttery, flaky crust. You see how nice and flaky our crust is? I am going to get your piece ready. Right there, that bite is for you. It's got some ice cream on it, some crust, some beautiful berries. Okay, let me give it a try. Yes. Oh my goodness. This is so good, y'all. There is just something so special about baking from scratch. Oh my goodness. The crust, it is buttery. It is delicious. It has got that right amount of flakiness to it, y'all. Those berries, oh my gosh, with the ice cream, y'all have got to give this recipe a try. Well, I thank you for spending time with me in my kitchen today. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I invite you to hit that subscribe button. If you like this video and appreciate the content, show it some love, give it a thumbs up, and click share. And share this video with a friend or a family. Well, that is it for me today, y'all. And remember, it's always good when Dyvonne is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.